So, change management is a very important topic in this day and age, and the PMI themselves came out with a practice guide, you could call it, regarding change management. It's actually called Change Management, Managing Change in Organizations, a practice guide. Now, when this came out, it was given away on the website to not just members, but I believe anyone who visited there could actually download it at the time for free. But it's unfortunate. It seems like even though we get great content, great output from the Project Management Institute, it seems as though we need to begin charity at home because all the laws that have been written in these books sometimes don't seem to be practiced by even the source. So a few weeks ago, PMI came out with some monumental changes. This is a classic case of change management gone wrong, in my opinion. A few days ago, I was going through emails, and one of my clients from a very, very well-known multi-billion company, you would know the company, sent me an email and said, Phil, I cannot believe what the PMI have done to their logo. What is this? I cannot believe what they have done to their website. And I'm talking about a firm that has spent tens of thousands of dollars in project management training based on the PMBOK guide. These are stakeholders. These are people who have the PMI in their crosshairs all day long. Their PMO is built on the PMBOK guide, everything. He was so utterly astonished and amazed. I really didn't have any comeback. Because when you boil it down, it is an absolute classic case of change management gone wrong. Now, those who disagree, you're free to your own opinion, but I'm talking about the perspective of a massive power player. I mean, to show you how big these folks are, I went to Scotland a few weeks ago and I was training a different company, and I heard that company talking about these guys as being one of their massive clients. I mean, so for PMI to give this perspective or this viewpoint of their logo and their website, as they are doing right now, it's not going unnoticed. And I just believe that that change could have been managed better. So why don't we go through the PMI's process for change management? And let's explore what could have been done, perhaps just a little bit different. Now, a lot of folks don't know that the PMI has a process for change management, even though it's not as big as the 5 process groups and the 10 knowledge areas. But this is very significant. And I teach this to companies, and I really believe, you know, the great people, the great minds, the volunteers, you see, that's part of the problem. The volunteers, the people who put all this content together are not the same people working the change. So while there's great stuff in the books, no one is doing it like they should, at least so it seems, right? So let's talk about change management 101, basic change management. I'm just going to give you some ideas about change management and how it could be done. Case in point, the new logo, the new website. So let's take a look. So before we talk about that, let's take a look at other companies that refuse to change with the time, because change is good. Don't get me wrong, change is good, but change does need to be managed in an intentional fashion. And change, before it is effected, should be very, very carefully considered with great consultation across several demographics and stakeholders. So this is not about me. There are 1,500 other people similar to me in the world of the PMI who are called or part of a registered education provider. Now, some registered education providers might have been aware of this or seen it coming down the pike. I did not. So when I logged onto the PMI website on that fateful day, I recorded the video. You see the video I recorded weeks ago. It's there. So that was an absolute shock. I didn't see it coming. I know other people might have, but I absolutely did not. I didn't see it coming. So in the world of the PMI, when we begin talking about change, I call this the FEPIMS. This is my own coin. This is how I coined it. It's not called this in the practice guide, but this is the way I teach it. I call it FEPIMS. And the first letter, F, is formulate. In fact, the FI is just my spin on it, but it's for formulating the change. What does it really mean to formulate the change? Formulating the change, as talked about in the practice guide, it says, formulate the change you're looking to bring about. Hello, the change you're looking to implement. Formulate the change by translating an organization's strategic plan into tangible objectives that are, watch this, aligned with stakeholders' needs and expectations. Talking about me as a stakeholder, that was not necessarily what I was expecting. It wasn't, and not in a pleasant way, I tell you that. Now, under formulating the change, one of the key things that you should do is identify and clarify the need for change. What is the need for change? Why are we reinventing the wheel? Why are we changing what has been in existence for many, many years, stood the test of time? This is an absolute 180-degree departure from what was established, in my opinion. And I have the right to have my opinion because I'm a stakeholder. I'm not coming at this like a trainer this time. I'm a stakeholder. So in my mind, I don't feel that the need for change has been clarified and underscored beyond a shadow of a doubt. I don't see it. There could have been many more ways to do this, in my opinion. So I have not been bought in as to why it changed. This isn't even, talking about the look and the feel of the logo or the site. This is just my opinion. So formulate the change. We need to identify, why do we need this change? Clarify, why do we need this change? And I watched the video that was put out, but I really couldn't understand why still the immediate need for such a drastic change. I mean, it's such a drastic departure. And you can read the comments on my video. I'm not the only one, who's shocked, but read the comments on my video. See? So establish the need for change and contribution needed for continued growth and sustainable competitive advantage. So if you're looking at implementing a change, you got to formulate it first. You got to identify, why do we need this? Clarify for the stakeholders. Now, I know there are all sorts of levels of stakeholders. Maybe some other stakeholders are more valuable than I am. Maybe they knew. I certainly didn't. So establishing the need for change and the contribution needed for continued growth and sustainable competitive advantage. In my mind, I'm wondering, what's the competitive advantage? In all honesty and in all truthfulness, I went to a number of websites before this training. I went to the Scrum Alliance. I went to the Agile Alliance. I went to ASQ as well. I just compared the look of all of those. Now, while some of the logos may not be as colorful or not as robust as this current logo on the PMI website, the former logo, the big bold P, M, and I, the big bold logo, I'm not even talking about the inscription under the PMI, but the old logo, in my honest opinion, it is extremely robust. It's just like you set something on a table and you walked away and said, I'm just going to leave this right here for you to comment. It looked like a boss logo. No beating about the bush, not too much activity. someone commented on that video I put out and said, obviously, you haven't been exposed to minimalist design. Well, I've actually been very, very much involved in websites. While I'm not a designer per se, I've actually taken courses in that. So there's a difference between the classic minimalist design of Apple, right? Versus, let's not even go there. Let's not even talk about companies who just fell flat. So in my mind, formulating the change anyway is definitely an area that may not have been done as best as it should. There's another step here in formulating the change, and this is assess the readiness for change. Assess change readiness of organizational systems, structures, culture, and people. Which people? Those that are impacted by or needed for the change. In my mind, I'm a person that's impacted. I'm a stakeholder. Duh, of course. I didn't feel that was done well. I don't feel formulating the change was done well as far as changing the logo. Someone will be like, what's the big deal? It's only a logo, it's only a website. No, it's not. There are people who have been attached to the PMI by virtue of career for eons. I have a friend who has been in the world of the PMI for almost like for a lifetime, a lifetime. So for a change like that to happen without consultation of stakeholders, and I know this is a real key stakeholder in my mind. This person wasn't consulted either, you see. So in my mind, assessing the readiness for change was missing. And then still in formulating the change, you want to delineate the scope of change, clarify expected outcomes of the change, define the extent and activities necessary for successful change. I feel it was very abrupt. It was very sudden. Anyway, enough said. Let's move on to talk about the next step of change management. Again, through the lens of the PMI themselves, the next step is planning the change. I feel, first of all, there was no case for change, shouldn't have been done. I would have liked a more modern look for the site, but I definitely do not buy the color. I definitely do not buy the multiplicity of logos, which will only lead to confusion in my mind, and scammers. But I really don't think there was a case. The business case was not compelling. And I did listen. I did watch the entire video. Planning the change now. Now, we talk about being agile, right? If you plan the change, you want to plan in an agile fashion. Your rollout should be agile in iterations, not a big bang, because there's a big bang and then you fall flat. And then I've got the phone ringing and then I've got someone yelling. How could they do this? I'm like, I don't know. People think I work for the PMI. No, I don't. So when this individual came at me and said, why did they, I'm just as clueless as everyone else. But I really think planning the change as well, it could have been done to roll it out in a more agile fashion. So planning the change is defining the change approach and then planning stakeholder engagement. You see why I'm saying this failed on many counts. Because if you're looking to change anything, you got to factor in your stakeholders. And if you're not factoring in your stakeholders when you're formulating and when you're planning, you miss the boat. Everything else is downhill from there. Because stakeholders, those are the reasons. They are the reasons why you're doing what you're doing. However you want to slice and dice it, stakeholders make the change what it is. If they don't buy into it, you're lost. And if stakeholders don't buy into the change, then it can't be sustained. It's draconian rule. That's what it becomes, right? So plan stakeholder engagement, identify and engage all stakeholders. These are PMI's words, all stakeholders. I don't feel that was done because I was totally blindsided. And if I was blindsided, then what chance do students have who are so far removed from, the PMI. All they know is it's an exam. Me, this is going on like since 2005, 15 years. I probably logged onto that website almost every week for the past 15 years. You see, so I know I'm going to get some haters and, people, some hecklers. I don't care. Put dislike, please dislike, please, because I know people are going to, there are people who are just blindly taking anything they're given. They're not going to see the big deal in what I'm saying. But the reason why I'm sharing this is I do want change. I don't want people to think, what did I just do to what Eric Janet and his four other colleagues put together? What have we just done? Because we spent time and energy and effort building this thing. Now look at what we got. That website, that logo. In fact, I would have to read the comment that a student, someone who was thinking of taking the exam, I would have to read what that person said. In fact, you might want to go to my video and read it. Go take a look. Read the comments that people left. One person out of the people who made comments accused us of not appreciating minimalist design. But everyone else was like, this is not a good idea. You got to listen to the people. When you're trying to make a change, if people are telling you up front, hey, slow down, think about this, you might want to listen to those people. So anyway, planning the change needs to be done well. And then we've got plan the transition and integration. There was no transition. We just boom. No announcement, nothing. Just that. So anyway, design a plan that includes all of the activities necessary to achieve objectives and integrate with business operations. So you're probably looking at this and saying, oh, where's the I? I told you it's the F. I added it so that I could make it a pronounceable acronym, not FPIMS. So I call it FPIMS. So plan the change. Next, implement the change. Take that change, implement it. How do you implement the change? Well, at the forefront of all of this stuff, I should probably back up. There are a number of change management models, a number of them. Okay. If the ADCAR model had been considered, maybe this wouldn't have happened, because it's very heavy on the people piece. Okay. But outside of that, let's talk about John Cotter's 8-step approach for change management. That is something else to think about. And that is, believe it or not, also talked about, mentioned in this practice guide. So there's ample proof that the way to change anything is by considering your stakeholders first. Consider your stakeholders, get them involved. Any of these models, be it the ADCAR model, be it John Cotter's model, be it Jack Welch's model, be it the American Express model, all of these models, they underscore in one stage or another the importance, the people piece. You see, Jack Welch, his third step, it says, provide strong leadership and obtain support. But then again, it says, mobilize the workforce in step 4 by engaging staff in planning and definition of new processes. So whether you like it or not, they're people. And while we may not be employees, we're people that can uphold change, right? Support change. So I feel that was missed. The American Express model says, create a vision, drive commitment. How do you get commitment when people don't believe in what is being done? You see, I'm not passionate about that site, to be honest. I'm not. And then to reiterate John Cotter's model, he says, create short-term wins. A short-term win, a tiny little win, could have been one piece of the puzzle, but not logo and website. Boom, double whammy on one day. You want to get feedback put it back into cycle, and then go again. You see what I'm saying? So, PMI friends who are watching this is just the unfiltered truth. I really think a better job could have been done. Do I appreciate the efforts? Absolutely. Do I like the end result? Not very much. I'm pretty much coping with it. This isn't like a learning to live with it type thing. This is an outright no. This is an outright no. I'm just going with the flow. I'm going to keep my certificates as they were when they were shipped. Like the last one I got from Sunil, the CEO, with his signature, I am keeping that in the green format. I am not, that is what is going to hang on my wall. So if you're like me, you might want to keep your old certificates because the new ones are going to have that logo on it. I am definitely not a fan of the new look. I can tell you that, just in all honesty. I really think a survey should be conducted to find out what's the buy-in rate of this thing. Just ask around. That would be something sensible to do. But anyway, going back to implementing the change, I said when you're implementing a change, you need to have people at the back of your mind and in the front of your mind. It's people 360. Implementing the change, you got to step in there. PMI has a step in there that says prepare the organization for change, identify areas where specific support is required, but prepare the organization for change. We are an extension of the organization. We were not prepared for it. And then you've got mobilize stakeholders, similar to the step I read from Jack's breakdown. Mobilize stakeholders and deliver project outputs. See, so all that stuff. Delivering project outputs does not just happen and then you mobilize stakeholders. No, you prepare, you mobilize, and then you deliver project outputs. But what we had was the reverse. We had project outputs delivered, and then, then we were strung along. We're strung along. I don't think that's a productive way to do things, Anyway, moving along, I don't want to take all day to talk about this. The next step is managing the transition. And I really don't think there was any transition, at least to us from the outside. Managing the transition in the world of the PMI is transition outputs into business. That just happened on day one. Measure the adoption rate. Well, I really hope you're doing this one, PMI. Let me quote the page for you, okay? Let me quote the page for you. It's page 21. And if you want me to come teach this stuff, I will come teach this at headquarters so that people know what they did wrong. Don't do it again. So in managing the transition, step one is transition the outputs into business. That happened. Measure the adoption rate. I hope that is happening. The outcomes and benefits. What are the outcomes? What are the benefits? Now, my concern is people are going to get to this site and say, what's this? What's this nut job site? And just jump off and say, whoever created this is, I don't know. Just being honest and unfiltered. But from the comments I'm hearing, it concerns me that people go to that site and think, what kind of joke, what kind of sick joke is this? Is this really? Because it's not about the colors alone. The font is definitely off. The way the PMI is just lacklusterly written on the right-hand side. No, definitely no. Definitely no. Anyway, so managing the change transition, we don't want to miss the boat on this one. We want to recover what we can. And I would just say this openly to the PMI, Sunil and his team, and don't get me wrong, I love what Sunil is doing and his approach to leadership, and great CEO. But I just think that some of this stuff that happened, I really don't know. I think we need to measure the adoption rate, take stock of the outcomes of what we have done, maybe look at the metrics and see what's going on, in the visitor metrics, in the stats, and then the benefits. Let's ask ourselves, let's be honest, because benefits management is another topic people don't want to talk about, but we need to check the benefits. Are we really getting the benefits from what we just did? Should be the question. All right. Now, there's still hope. Step 3 in managing the transition, let me tell you the page again, it's page 21. There is hope. Page 21 says, adjust the plan to address discrepancies. All change initiatives have a degree of uncertainty and ambiguity. Therefore, the team needs to adjust the plan on a regular basis. There is still hope. Let's not say, oh, we've done it and we can't do anything else. No, you can. We've got a backup plan. That's what it's called. And if the adoption is poor, you got to think agile. You got to get out of that quicksand. You got to hit that reset button. You got to revert. Okay. So that would be my 2 cents. There are 2 big things. I don't really think people get the gravity of what has happened. One, a logo that some people for over half of their life they've been used to, that's gone away. It's now been replaced by something that is definitely not representative of the professionalism that the body espouses. It does not in any way, shape, or form look as robust. Now, people say, oh, the old one was stuffy, but it was robust. I prefer stuffy, robust, than flaky, jokey. I don't even know. I don't even know what to call it. I don't know what to call it. That's my 2 cents. Let's talk about the final one because I've talked about managing the transition. The last one is sustaining the change. Again, this is a people thing. It's a people thing. So sustaining the change. How do you sustain the change? The success of any initiative lies in the benefit value for the organization and its stakeholders. For me, I'm not seeing benefit in this. I'll just be honest. Maybe, if people are selling to themselves that they are going to get benefits, that's the only way I can see that happening in sustaining the change. Because for me, I really don't know what to think. I'm just going about my business, doing my business, but I'm not doing cartwheels and jumping and doing flips over it. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. So anyway, the 3 steps here in sustaining the change. 1, ongoing communication, consultation. Of who? Stakeholders. Ongoing communication, consultation, and representation of stakeholders. PMI, you need to listen to your stakeholders. You need to account for all stakeholders. Don't just take a cross section. Take everyone, even the companies of smaller value. They go on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, asking questions. Which of these do you think is best? Which of these logos do you think is best? Which of these website designs do you think is best? Which of these photos do you think is best? That's what people do these days. They're not stupid. They know we live in an agile world, and they know that everything revolves around the customer, the stakeholder. Someone said in a big company, it looks like we don't have a boss. We do. We've got one. It's the customer. They can vote with their visitation. They invest in the site. They ain't hiring you. See? Then there's sense-making activities. That's step 2 in sustaining the change. I really cannot make sense out of this, and I don't think there are going to be any sense-making activities, but these are ongoing conversations and social practices that enable people to make sense of what is happening. There's a much more robust account of change management where we actually examine change from a different lens, from the lens of, you know, someone going through a grieving process. I know it sounds a little bit dramatic, but you might want to look at the Bridges transition model, you know, the valley of despair. That some people might be going through that. Some people might, you know, so I don't want to trivialize it. Some people might be going through that. But anyway, talking about sustaining the change, the last step that the PMI talks about in sustaining the change is measure benefits realization. I really hope they do this one. Measure success of the change through its impact on the organization. Okay. So there you have it. The PMI has given us the FPIMS approach, FPIMS, really. I threw the I in there to make it sound cool. So the FPIMS change management method, PMI, I think you need to revisit this. And I think you really need to engage stakeholders a little bit more, not even a little bit more, a whole lot more, a whole lot more. So I hope while, you know, at the same time I'm sharing stuff about the look and the feel and this and that, same time I'm talking about the FPIMS change management approach. I think it's great. And I think what the PMI have put together in that change management practice guide is fantastic. The breakdown of what change is, you know, and a mentor of mine, a friend of mine, rest her soul, Ginger Levin, she loved this one. She loved this one. And we actually had the pleasure of teaching some from this to a bank in Florida some years before she left us. But anyway, that's the FPIMS change management model. Thanks for your audience. Feel free to drop a comment, hit a like. Look, if you truly know that you ain't buying it, I want to see a like. And if you feel, oh, shut up, Phil, what a bunch of baloney, hit the down thumbs button. I'll appreciate it. Take care and bye for now.